So, with the support of the government of Japan, my part of the OECD has been looking into these kinds of questions and specifically looking into a few possible solutions, or at least maybe not solutions, but things that can be done to help out this kind of situation. And they all revolve around the theme of, okay, let's stop at the regulatory level just being victimized by this constant advance of new technology, the evolution of businesses using it. And instead, let us as regulators use these technologies to help us do our jobs better. So the three ideas under our analysis, and we're in the very early stages, but compliance by design at the code level, which means at the source code level, real-time monitoring, and government-led frameworks to facilitate data exchange for public interest projects. So first idea, compliance by design at the code level. Under this approach, instead of relying on employees and training and laws and manuals that only get updated every so often to do the job of compliance, why not build compliance directly into the software that runs a business? The prevention, the detection, and the resolution of problems under this system takes place directly in the software code at the heart of a company's business. Compliance by design means that there's less need for ex-ante enforcement. There's less need for ex-post enforcement. Instead, the rules are enforced ex-ante and automatically, making it harder for there to be violations in the first place. So this sounds kind of theoretical, and you might have an instinctive reaction that, well, what does this mean? Does this mean governments are going to hand a piece of source code to businesses and say, here, put this directly into your most sensitive software, to which the reaction is going to be, you're insane, there's no way we're going to do that. But that's really not the idea. The compliance by design at the code level, that software probably would not be written by the regulators. Instead, the regulators would set certain conditions that they want the companies to comply with, and then the companies would go about meeting those conditions themselves. This has already been done, and it worked. In fact, 10 years ago, the European Commission brought a competition law case against Microsoft, which had tied its browser to the Windows operating system. And the European Commission said, now you're violating the competition law, we want you to fix it. And the way we want you to fix it is you're going to offer every Windows user a choice when they first set up their system. Everybody gets to choose which browsers that they want to use with a window like this. And Microsoft said, whoa, that's going to completely get in the way of innovation, and it's just not a good idea. And the European Commission insisted. And eventually, Microsoft complied, and the complaints stopped, and they continued to develop Windows and to innovate, and everything came out fine. And today, it's accepted as perfectly normal that we all get to choose our browsers because the European Union insisted on this remedy, and it worked. But it was Microsoft who built this code into Windows. It wasn't the European Commission. So the second idea, real-time monitoring, is really aimed at getting away from too much reliance on old methods. Like if you've got a nuclear power plant, you've got inspectors who need to go there from time to time and make sure everything's safe. I'm not saying to stop doing that, but it's also not a bad idea to install sensors inside the plant that are spitting out a continuous stream of data that can then be fed into computers that can do big data analytics and anticipate problems, maybe even cure them before they become an accident. without that ability to closely monitor what's happening in regulated industries in real time, by definition, regulators are always operating at least partially in the dark. Something is happening as soon as they stop directly focusing on the business. And that may be when the problems start. So this could work in, for example, in the transportation, energy, or financial sectors, using sensors, using the Internet of Things, using cloud computing and big data analytics all together. All these technologies have come together at the right time to allow this kind of innovation by regulators. And as an added bonus, it could create a positive feedback loop for regulators, because they'll be taking in all this data about what works and what doesn't work. It may help them improve the regulation itself and lead to more evidence-based policy making. So an example of this is sensor-based water monitoring. That's an internet-connected sensor, an Internet of Things device that's sitting in the middle of a stream somewhere that is constantly feeding data about the quality of water to an agency that's responsible for monitoring the pollution and the quality of water. The United States Environmental Protection Agency's New England Regional Laboratory has a network of these things. And the purpose of them is to help them identify cases that call for enforcement. So it's really pretty impressive, actually. This network of these things feeds data into a set of computers that perform big data analytics and have a series of algorithms. And what those algorithms do is inform regulators exactly where there's a probability of a violation happening, or where the probability of non-compliance is high. It's so much more efficient than sending out human water testers all over the place to remote areas and possibly missing things weeks or months after the problem arises, because they're always there and they detect it right away. So the third one, government-led frameworks, this one is more about seizing opportunities than fixing problems with old regulations. During the past 30 years or so, as the world largely transitioned from analog systems to digital systems, there's been an explosion of data that's coming out of computer systems and sensors. But a lot of the potential of that data remains dormant, in part because the data is stored and transmitted using many different and incompatible formats. And as the Internet of Things develops and spreads, this problem is just going to get worse. There's going to be more and more data generated in non-standard formats, probably proprietary protocols. Without some kind of intervention, it's going to make data sharing and data reuse harder and harder. So some governments have started to develop data sharing frameworks for public interest projects like smart grids and smart cities. A good example of where this is needed is self-driving cars. As they become more common, new possibilities are going to open up. So once enough cars have this software and are self-driving, one of the things that we might see is cars that aren't just smart and connected with the internet, but cars that are capable of physically connecting, sort of like a train with many cars physically linked. There'll be a little device on the front and back of each car that hooks to the car in front of it. Why is this so important? Because on highways right now, what we've got is car, space, car, space, car, space. Several different speeds all at the same time, human drivers, possibility for accidents, yes. But if they're all capable of connecting virtually and physically, you will see far more efficient use of highways than is possible today. You can put many more cars on the same amount of road space. They can move at speed and they can do it safely. And every time someone wants to come onto the highway from an on-ramp, the chain of cars will just know. It'll sense this other car coming, it'll break apart, make a little space, the new car will zip in, and the train of cars will pull back together. When you want to get off, it'll open up, you'll release from the front and back of your car, you just drive off, and then the train closes up again. This is an awesome possibility, but it's only going to work if the software and the data are all standardized and interoperable. So it's a good example of the need for international regulatory cooperation. Cars cross international borders all the time. I live in Europe now, so I do it myself on a pretty regular basis. What we don't want in this situation is France and Italy and the UK and Germany all developing their own systems for this kind of thing. That destroys the whole value proposition. They need to get together and settle this so that it will all work in harmony. There are, by the way, a number of ethical issues that will have to be sorted out too about how the cars make decisions. But that is a fascinating topic for another day. So hopefully I haven't used too much time. I'm going to stop now.
Thank you.
I think before my comments, for the sake of those who were not here earlier, just like to introduce myself and my team. Okay, but before that, thank you to the OECD Korea Policy Center team for the invite. I think we are very privileged to be among a group of intelligents here who share a diverse wealth of experience and knowledge in the subject matter of regulating for businesses and innovation. My team and I were part of a new setup in the Singapore government. I think we have formed about 1 or 2 years to focus on implementing and formulating and implementing policies that facilitate the pro-enterprise business regulatory environment. Before I begin, I think I share the same spirit of open learning that Director Kim and Celine earlier highlighted. And we have to be modest to admit that I think Singapore is still trying to learn how we can regulate in a way that facilitates businesses. And while different countries may have different national interests, I think we are united in trying to find solutions to keep up with innovation and regulating for businesses in a pro-enterprise manner. So it's a joy for me to share some of the initiatives that Singapore has considered. We'll also be So I'll start with the broad operating context. I think this one is something that we're all familiar with. And then I'll dive into two specific initiatives that the government, as part of its policy and objective to facilitate a business-friendly environment, has implemented. Some examples and cases, and I'll share a video before I just highlight some questions for food for thought that could guide the discussion if Celine desires so. Okay, sure all of you are quite familiar. Singapore is very small geographically. We are an open economy with diverse trade links. But despite this, I think many of us know us to have a stable regulatory environment. But somehow, not so much on the positive side. Some people also say we are a fine city. I use this word loosely, not just to refer to the levies or fines that we impose on the Singaporean citizens, but really to question whether are we on a trajectory, in the way that we roll out our regulations. A trajectory that imposes too much business costs. If we take too hard-handed approach on businesses. And I think it's time for us to realize that if we continue on this trajectory, it may not be the best policy for us to pursue. So that's why I think this unit was set up to review the way that we set policies for businesses, regulatory policies for businesses. And the third point on how we have all been disrupted with new business models and innovative technology, AI, IoT. While I may not focus on these specific topics, I think the broad issue of how innovation has disrupted our regulatory frameworks is something that's commonly shared among all economies. And the question that we should ask ourselves is, should regulations always be playing catch-up? Should we always react to innovation, or can we take a more forward-looking approach to really think about how we can set up structures, institutions, an environment that's conducive for innovation to be introduced to the market. And finally, what does it mean to be a regulator today? Right? Is it just about consumer safety, reducing risk, or can we review our relationship with regulated entities as we move forward? So I'll try and cover all these points in the sharing later. So just to mention that I think the issue of and the need to regulate for innovation and businesses is not something, it's not an agenda that sits solely on the Ministry of Trade and Industry. It is an issue that's recognized across the Singapore government, and we're taking steps to try and address that. Let me share the first initiative with all of you. We have set up a panel, right? It's called the Pro-Enterprise Panel, which is a public sector, private sector panel that is chaired by senior civil service leaders. But the more important point I wish to highlight is that it mainly involves private sector leaders as part of this panel. And the main objective of this setup, of this committee, is to serve as an internal advocate within the government to receive feedback so that we can jointly rationalize solutions to address the challenges that businesses face. And I think this sort of follows on from one of the earlier discussions on how the private sector and public sector can work better together, right? To solicit feedback and to jointly come up with solutions to address issues that businesses face. So as we move forward, I think we want to move beyond being a voice for small and medium-sized enterprises. We also want to proactively create an environment through regular reviews to encourage innovation and instill a sense of discipline across the different government agencies to streamline and set rules in a way that reduces compliance costs and facilitates new business models. This is on my earlier point on the relationship between regulator and regulated entity. I think I have to be humble to say that in the past, when we first started out in regulations, we may assume that the government knows best. I don't know if this is shared with the Korean delegates here or in your respective countries. We think that we know the environment best, we know businesses better than businesses. That's ironic. So we come up with regulations and we regulate in a very paternalistic fashion, I guess. I use it very loosely, but I mean a hard-handed approach. And many a times when businesses come to us, the very standard response is, I'm sorry, I'm not going to review. The answer is simply, no, it's not safe. There are too many risks involved. But as we move forward to embrace technology, earlier, I think Jeremy shared on the various ideas that have come through, Internet of Things, AI. Can we review the relationship we have with the private sector and evolve to create something that is a partnership, right? Rather than a regulated entity relationship, but more of a facilitator. So to involve businesses in the rule setting or rule review process. And lastly, to ensure that there is transparency and accountability. Accountability at least to the commitment that we will review the feedback from businesses instead of assuming that we know best. So I think this is still work in progress. I wouldn't say that we have achieved what we want to achieve, but this is the direction that we wish to go ahead with. Okay, so just to briefly share, this is not rocket science. We have tried to institutionalize a structured process for business feedback to come through the Pro-Enterprise Panel. So once businesses have a direct line of communication with my team, and we will review the feedback that we have received with the relevant government agencies and jointly come to a solution to address the regulatory risks and challenges that they have brought up. I wouldn't say it's a 100% success rate, but I think to come up with a structured approach is necessary to at least be accountable to the businesses out there, to let them know that the government is committed to receiving and hearing and addressing your concerns. I'll share a few examples. Well, they may not be highbrow examples, but you will be quite surprised how some simple suggestions can actually be shot down by the government at first glance, but then through the review, we have allowed certain ideas to come through. And the first example is the sale of general sales list of medicines and products via vending machines. So initially, in GIS, I think because of consumer safety concerns, the regulated sector didn't want to allow the sale of such medicines like Panadol, vitamin C on vending machines. But I think as we move forward, we really need to think about the topic of risk calibration. Are consumers really going to abuse this vending machine system? So after some review, the authorities have actually allowed the sale of such products over the vending machine. But the point that I wish to highlight is that there's a need for business feedback to directly come to the government. And sometimes if business feedback goes through the regulator per se, there could be a conflict of interest. I'm not sure, but if there is another channel through the pro-enterprise panel, I think we can better review business feedback. Second case is more on streamlining of processes. You would be surprised prior to 2017, 2018, to put up a promotional banner along our, I guess, famous Orchard Road. If you have been to Singapore, you need to interact with 5 agencies. Yeah, 5 agencies. And each agency has their own specific requirement to put up the banner. So if I'm a business owner, first question is, which agency should I go to? Which agency's requirements are actually the accurate ones? But in actual fact, all are accurate, but yet they differ. So that's the sort of conundrum that we realize, that some businesses face. And one of the roles, the important roles of the pro-enterprise panel is to bring together the different agencies to the same room and iron out the best solution to move forward with the requirements. And in this case, we managed to appoint a single agency among these 5 and to come up with a uniform set of requirements for agencies to adopt and also for businesses to comply. So as of 2018, the last I checked, I think you only need to interface with one agency and there's only one set of requirements. Please let me know if your experience differs. I'll look for these guys. Okay, the second key initiative is the First Mover Framework, which in essence is a scheme that we have rolled out across the government to encourage the introduction of innovative business ideas involving the use of public government assets. So we hope to encourage the spirit of coming up with new business models and ideas to better use public spaces such as national parks, areas outside the metro, etc., etc. Car parks are also another example. So just some basic guidelines. Your idea has to be novel, innovative. I'm aware that this definition is a broad one. So we try and set as many ideas as we can in the review process. And even better, if the business idea makes use of public assets and has an economic growth potential to it, through this scheme, the agencies that are involved have to review the suggestion and convey a review outcome to the businesses who have put forth the business idea. And I think, well, once again, this is not something that is rocket science. The amount of due diligence, right, and commitment that the scheme actually asks from agencies is something that is well appreciated by businesses and well appreciated by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. So I think we have to put in place certain schemes to at least get the ball rolling. Yeah. So just to share, successful business ideas will get 2 kinds of advantages from the use of government assets, assuming their idea is assessed to be innovative enough. The first one is that you get an allocation advantage, so you wouldn't really have to compete with other businesses to make use of that same space. The second one is sort of a price advantage, similar to a subsidy in the price that you need to pay to roll out your business idea. Yeah, so these are just some guidelines for the businesses. Some of the ideas that do not qualify, but I hope that the focus is on these 2 areas. Yeah, so just to share a very simple idea, a portable roving park. You would think that such an idea shouldn't be rejected, since it contributes to beautifying the space where it is not used in the first place. But prior to submitting the idea through the scheme, I think there was quite some pushback by certain government agencies in their review. But through the scheme, the commitment shown by the different agencies actually allowed the travelling farm, as it's called, to be set up 3 different locations. So one of these locations is just outside the Raffles Place MRT metro. So it is an open space, but because of this first mover advantage, they managed to set up shop there. And what the business does is actually sell, it's like a mini nursery, so sell plants and flowers for people to buy back to their homes or their offices. So it's a simple idea, but I think businesses, when we spoke to them, they do appreciate that they're able to use public space that's going to be empty anyway to implement their business ideas. So this is, we're just getting started, but we hope more innovative ideas can come through this scheme, and agencies can review them, and we can better make use of government spaces. So it's a win-win relationship as well. Okay, so before I move on to some questions for food for thought, I'd like to show a video, some of you summarizing some of the work that our panel has done.
Hi, I'm Alan.
Hi, and I'm Carlos.
And together we represent the Pro Enterprise Panel, or PEP in short.
So what is the PEP? To put it simply, we're a panel that comprises both business leaders and public officers who work together to create a more business-friendly environment.
We do this in 2 main ways. Firstly, by supporting innovative business ideas. For example, we are now at the Floating Donut, an innovative dining concept at the Marina Bay. Working with the PEP, they've got permission to experiment with their novel business idea in a controlled environment, or what we call a regulatory sandbox, for 6 months. The regulatory sandbox is an important government initiative to bring about more vibrancy and encourage new business ideas from our business and industries.
But what exactly is the regulatory sandbox? It allows companies to market test their ideas upfront without having to go through regulatory hurdles at the onset. Our goal is helping every idea, good ideas, bad ideas, and maybe the crazier ideas the better, to actually get their way to market and let the market decide. Another way the PEP supports innovative ideas is through their first mover framework. An example of this is the Decathlon Singapore lab. So what's so innovative about this lab?
This store is a retail concept that features a variety of expanded experience zones for users to test our products. This is more than what you see in our other stores. We also have a conveyor belt system to fulfill our 2-hour online delivery promise.
Wow, that's impressive. So how did PEP help make your vision a reality?
Sports SG worked with the PEP to streamline the process of the government allocating this space for this store through their first mover framework. It saved us a considerable amount of time in kickstarting this project. Come Carlos, let me show you the store.
One of the things that we like to do in PEP is to work with businesses and government to streamline or change regulation. Today we have with me Peg Lin, co-founder of an ice cream brand we love so much, Others. Hi Peg Lin, thanks for joining us. Tell us about your journey with the Pro Enterprise Panel.
Okay, so Others is famous for our alcoholic flavors like rum rum raisin and Baileys and bourbon, and they contain up to 4% alcohol. This was caught by the Liquor Control Act, which means that firstly we have to apply for the liquor license for every outlet, and secondly the supermarkets and convenience stores cannot sell our alcoholic flavors after 10:30, which is a bummer.
So how did PEP work with you to resolve these regulatory issues?
So I wrote to the PEP and asked that my alcoholic flavors be excluded from the Act, because in my 12 years of running Others, no one has ever eaten my alcoholic flavors and gotten drunk. Yeah, I don't think you can eat enough ice cream for that. PEP worked with me and my shareholder plans to review the legislation and excluded my alcoholic ice creams from the Act.
And how did the change in regulation benefited you as an SME here?
It's been great for my business. Now I don't have to spend $880 per year on each liquor license for each of my shops. As a small company, every single cent counts.
Yes.
And also, supermarkets and convenience stores can now sell my alcoholic ice creams 24/7, even beyond 10:30 p.m.
Wow, exciting things to come.
Yes.
Rules review is an important part of public service transformation. We shape our rules, then our rules shape us. The PEP has been working alongside businesses to help grow a pro-enterprise and pro-innovation environment. It could be working with companies to try out new ideas, streamlining government processes, or reducing license fees. or enabling companies to build up their track record, grow and scale up. This partnership is very valuable to ensure economic growth and create good jobs for Singaporeans. I encourage businesses who need assistance with an innovative idea or to address government rules to reach out to the PEP, and we will see how we can help you.
Okay, thank you for your attention. I'd like to thank my colleagues who have done a very good job in coming up with the video. I think it really complements the sharing that I did earlier, and also more case studies on how businesses have benefited from this government setup. I'd like to conclude by maybe sharing some of the questions for food for thought. Let me see if this is okay. Yep, so I'd like to conclude by perhaps thinking about 3 areas. What else can governments across the world do to better facilitate the introduction and testing of new ideas? Maybe not just internationally, but domestically, what can we do, as public sector? And in today's age of innovation, disruption, in fact, how can we be more proactive, and forward-looking instead of being reactive, which is what I brought up earlier. And if possible, I'm not sure, because all of us, for us, we are new to this concept of regulating for innovation. What are some methods or techniques we can consider to regulate in a pro-innovation, pro-enterprise manner? So with that, I thank you for your attention.